Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About This. You know, it's your girl Christine. Welcome to episode number 6. If you're just tuning with me for the first time, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and don't forget to hit that post notification button. Just like in my podcast, which is called Broken Silence Real Talk, which can be found on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and many more. We kick off each episode here on Let's Talk About This family with gratitude. So for me, I'm going to say I'm grateful for choice. The ability to say no, the ability to say yeah, the ability to be like, yeah, maybe I'll get back to you, I'll let you know. Because unfortunately, there are people who are in situations or even situations within themselves. They can't choose. They're stuck. They feel like they don't have answers, resources. So the ability to have choice and what you choose to do and have around you and within your life is so important. So that's why I'm grateful for choice, which I think is perfect to kick off today's topic, which is accountability. And I named this episode, Accountability Isn't Candy. And the reason why I say that is, you guys remember when people were like, yeah, people say I love you, and people call each other friends as if it's candy. They just throw it out there like it's candy. Well, they're starting to throw accountability out there like it's candy. You know what accountability is? Do you really know what accountability is? I'm understanding what accountability is. I'm just wondering if everybody else does. Because it's like, just like, what do you guys call it? Bandwagoners? If like the Raptors were to win, the Lakers were to win, Celtics, whoever Golden State, whoever it may be, everybody tends to jump on that, whoever's winning. But are you jumping on the bandwagon of accountability? You can't really jump on something if you don't really know what it is. So, for me today, we're going to talk about accountability. And I'm going to use relationships as a way to explain accountability. Because I know a lot of people, including myself, have been in toxic relationships, toxic cycles within their friend group, relationships, whatever it may be. But do we really understand what accountability is? Because accountability and emotions and feelings, those are completely different things, okay? So let's talk about false accountability and using things as scapegoats, even manipulation, and you don't even realize that's what you're doing unless you're a narcissist. So, for instance, you're in a relationship with a man and he cheats on you. And you're like, I forgive you. I forgive you, and let's work on it. But then deep down within yourself, you're like, I want to get this dude back. This isn't over yet. And now you choose to cheat back on him to make yourself feel better. Who's in the wrong? Who's in the wrong? I want to have a serious conversation about this. I want to know who's in the wrong. Because I know who's in the wrong. I want to know if you guys know. Because I'll tell you right now, that woman is in the wrong. And the reason why she's in the wrong is because, yes, your man cheated on you, and that's not right. I'm not saying that is. But you chose to forgive him. You chose to stay with him. So now you need to continue to choose to do the right thing. So if you choose to cheat on him to make yourself feel better, now the onus is now 100% on you. You can't even say nothing. You can't be like, oh, I did this to you because you did this to me. And that's not accountability. That is not accountability. When you are taking accountability for something, you know what? You need to be like, I am wrong. Regardless of how I was feeling in that moment, it wasn't right. That is accountability. Being able to call yourself out on your own stuff so that you can call yourself in to grow is accountability. Understanding and listening to somebody else about how you made them feel without cutting them off, without being like, yeah, but do you not remember what you did to me them times? Do you not remember what was going around in that situation? That's not accountability. You need to really and truly take taking accountability is taking responsibility. To understand accountability, you need to take responsibility, 100%. And understanding accountability in the same breath is understanding that my actions, my choices, my words are completely on me. A lot of people think that accountability is objective, but it's not. Accountability is subjective. It is very personal. And the reason why it's personal is because it is tailored to who you are. And if you don't know who you are, which stems from awareness, then you're not going to take accountability. And a lot of people who struggle with taking accountability struggle with love, struggle with respect, struggle with ego, pride, and even trauma bonding, because they didn't have that example. They didn't have people call them out so they can call themselves in. And that is what accountability is. Accountability isn't just saying you're wrong. That's not just accountability. That's just me telling you that you're wrong. But if I tell you that you're wrong, why don't you ask me why? What did I do? How did I make you feel? What were my actions? What were my words? You are 110% accountable for how you make other people feel. And I know you guys heard about karma. What goes around comes around. And it comes around. And sometimes people with children, sometimes karma doesn't hit you, it hits your kids, which is unfortunate, you know? But I told you, karma comes around tenfold. And to stop that karma, everybody can stop their karma. And that's what everybody doesn't understand. If you choose within that moment, I'm going to change who I am and take accountability for my choices, my words, my actions, my ego, my pride, the lack of understanding that I have, changing your karma. You're now changing who you are. Not really changing who you are. You're accepting who you are. And you're able to call yourself out. And a lot of people don't because of embarrassment. A lot of people don't because of ego, because of pride, especially ego and pride. But it's hard for a lot of people to say, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. And listen to somebody with complete objectivity. Taking accountability is purely subjective, but listening to somebody and listening to them wholeheartedly is completely objectively, because you have to listen objectively to understand. Because the moment you make it personal, you're now putting your feelings onto what they're saying, which you can't do. You can't do that to understand somebody. We can't allow our emotions to take over our intelligence. And that's what we tend to do, I'm going to say, in relationships, because I can speak from personal experience, just regular relationships, like with my mom, with my dad, with my ex-fiance, like all of that stuff. I have to look at who I am as an individual, what my triggers are, what boundaries I've set within myself because of my past traumas and because of the past situations that I've been in and stuff like that. So I have to look at all of those things, and it actually not necessarily stops you, but what you go through, and if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, be like, you know what, you need to take responsibility for that. It's harder for you to say I'm wrong. It's harder for you to listen to somebody wholeheartedly because you have not identified triggers, your boundaries, your worth, and you haven't been able to swallow your pride and your ego. We tend to allow as I just said, our emotions to take over our intelligence, which then allows us to argue selfishly. And the reason why I say that you selfishly is because we are unable to take accountability or responsibility. So if you get into an argument with your mom, dad, partner, or whatever, just hear me out. It's really tricky. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you I'm perfect, because I'm not, because I struggle with this. I'm still struggling with this with my ex-fiance. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want to cuss this guy out right now. But I hold my tongue, because the moment I step in, I'm now discrediting how he feels completely, right? So when I say that we argue selfishly, we argue in a way where you are arguing with your mom or your dad. I'll say husband or wife or girlfriend. I'll use that for a little bit. So we tend to argue based on how we're feeling because we want that person to hear us, to know how they made us feel and to understand how they made us feel. But when they're talking, we're not really listening. We're waiting to shut up them so that we can make a rebuttal. So we're not really listening to understand them because we haven't taken that accountability yet. We're still thinking like, yeah, but do you know that you pissed me off when this happened? Do you know that you hurt me when you did this? Like, but don't you see what I was trying to tell you? Don't you see what I was doing? We argue selfishly. If people were to argue unselfishly and come back to the table and realize my husband or my wife is not my enemy. My dad, mom is not against me. They have their feelings and I have mine. We need to learn to communicate. And when I hear, I do mindset coaching as well. If you guys ever want, I'm actually having a masterclass that's actually dropping tomorrow on my Instagram, which is Impactoverintention. That's a little bit of a side note. So if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, and follow me there, Impactoverintention, and you guys will all get the latest updates. But back to what I was just saying. So a lot of people, as I said, argue selfishly, right? Don't really listen. So in my coaching calls, a lot of it's about relationships, right? And they feel like, there's some relationships that are holding back them from their success within their business, within themselves. So, and they all would be like, yeah, we know how to fight well, I said, just because you fight a lot doesn't mean you fight well. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, just because you fight a lot doesn't mean you fight well. I could fight somebody every day, doesn't mean I'm doing it right. Because if I was doing it right, the problem would be solved. Therefore, it would need to continue. So clearly, you're doing something wrong. And what you're not doing, and what you're doing wrong is not looking at yourself first. There's some other situations where it's like, oh, I've noticed that my boyfriend came online after work, but he didn't message me, and he usually messages me, and what is he doing? I was like, yo, first of all, you're insecure, right? Second of all of this women who are watching this video, you can't act like you guys didn't. So if you don't feel like talking to your man or something, sometimes like you send text messages instead of WhatsApp because you don't want that person to see that you're online. You don't go on Facebook or you'll turn off your Instagram visibility because sometimes you just want to talk to that person. So what I tell the women sometimes is like, if your man had a hard day at work, he'll talk to you. But sometimes you're not what he needs within that moment. Sometimes he just wants to chill with his bread and scroll on social media like foolishness. Sometimes you are not what he needs in that moment. And sometimes you are not what she needs in that moment. And what we need to do is be secure within. And how can we be secure within ourselves if we can't take responsibility for our actions? We can't take responsibility for our emotions. And we cannot take responsibility for what I'm grateful for today, choices. So if you haven't already, my book, Hidden Truths, Broken Silence, which is available on Walmart, Amazon. Soon it will be available on my website, Chapters in Indigo. And guess for my e-readers, I published this book as an ebook because I've been getting emails, DMs, text messages. When are you going to make it an ebook? When are you going to make it an ebook? I did it. It's done. Okay? So if you guys want to purchase my copy, hard copy, it's available internationally. It's available anywhere. Google it. Hidden Truth, Broken Silence. But it is now available as an ebook. And one of the things that I talk about in my book, which is accountability. I wasn't able to have that pivotal moment in my life if I wasn't able to take accountability for me, for my choices, for my lack of love and understanding, for my lack of communication. And that was all about self-awareness. Please, especially if the book was compared to Sister Soldier's The Coldest Winter Ever, if you didn't already know that. And I know that Sister Soldier's coming out with a sequel. So, hey, if you want, grab that. Also, grab Hidden Truths, Broken Silence. But as I said, accountability is key. And that's something that we don't do. And if this resonates with you, leave a comment. Send me a DM on Instagram. Because I think we need to have more raw and real conversations of where we go wrong as individuals. Where can we learn how to be accountable within ourselves. Yeah, you hear about calling people out, but have you ever tried calling yourself in? That may sound confusing to some people. When someone calls you out and you become defensive, that means you're not ready to call yourself in to grow, right? So I'm calling you out. I'm calling you guys all out if you guys aren't able to take accountability. So you guys can reach that and grab yourselves in. Bring yourselves in and understand what self-awareness is, what accountability is, and what true growth is. As an husband, wife, partner, friend, son, daughter, whatever it may be. But I just wanted to have a conversation with you guys about accountability. Accountability isn't candy. It's not a word that we throw out there loosely. It's not something, stop taking false accountability for yourself and start taking true accountability for yourself. Don't mind me. I'm here like having a pen and paper in my hand on my table. So when you see me going like this and that, it's because I'm using my pen because I love to talk with my hand. And I'm just like, yep, going over this, going over that. That's just me. But as I said, guys, the ability of freedom, the ability of yes, the ability of no, the ability of awareness, all stems from, I'm here writing it down, accountability. This was another episode of Let's Talk About This. You already know it's your girl, Christene. Peace.